The evening was supposed to be perfect. The ballroom glowed with golden light, filled with polished marble floors, glittering chandeliers, and voices that rose like waves of laughter and gossip. It was a charity event, one of those gatherings where cameras flashed constantly and every step felt like a performance. Keanu Reeves arrived quietly as he always did, dressed simply compared to the others who wore their wealth like armor. His presence alone drew attention, yet he walked with the same humility that had always set him apart. Sandra Bullock was already there, her smile radiant, her laughter soft, but her eyes scanning the crowd. She had grown used to these nights, to the noise and the pressure, but she never stopped noticing when someone looked uncomfortable. And tonight, that someone was Keanu. For years, Sandra had admired his strength, his calm, his way of making everyone else feel safe. But as she watched him from across the room, she saw something different. His shoulders seemed heavier, his steps slower, his eyes distant. He looked like a man carrying the weight of battles no one else could see. The speeches began. Applause filled the room. Cameras flashed as Keanu was called to the stage, asked to share a few words about resilience and kindness, two things he lived quietly but rarely spoke about. He walked to the podium, his hands steady at first, his voice low and calm. But then, in the middle of his sentence, something happened. His voice faltered, his breath caught, his body swayed slightly, almost unnoticeable at first until the microphone shook in his hand. The crowd gasped. The cameras zoomed closer. Keanu Reeves, the man known for strength, had stumbled. Sandra reacted before anyone else. She moved quickly through the crowd, her heels striking the floor with determination. By the time Keanu's knees weakened and his body tilted forward, her arms were already there, steadying him, holding him up. The ballroom froze. Hundreds of eyes stared as Sandra Bullock caught Keanu Reeves in front of the world. Whispers spread like fire, questions rising louder than the music. Is he sick? What happened? Are they together? But Sandra didn't care about the noise. Her focus was on him. Keanu, are you all right? She whispered, her voice low enough only for him to hear. He blinked, trying to steady himself. I'm fine, he muttered, though his face told a different story. Sandra held him firmly, her eyes fierce. No, you're not. Let me help you. Security moved in, but Keanu gently waved them back. With Sandra's arm wrapped around him, he walked carefully off the stage. The cameras followed, flashes chasing them like hungry wolves. Once inside a quieter hallway away from the crowd, Keanu leaned against the wall, his breath still uneven. He looked at Sandra, his eyes filled with both gratitude and shame. I didn't want them to see me like that. She shook her head firmly. Keanu, you don't have to be unshakable all the time. You're human. Even the strongest stumble. And when you do, there is nothing wrong with letting someone catch you. His chest tightened at her words. He had lived a lifetime being the protector, the one others leaned on, the one who stayed calm when the world turned cruel. But tonight, in a moment of weakness, Sandra had seen the truth. He was human, fragile, scarred. For the first time in years, he felt exposed, and yet somehow safe. Her hand lingered on his arm, her touch steady. You've carried so much alone, Keanu. You don't always have to. He looked at her, his silence heavy, his eyes glistening with emotions he had buried for too long. But just as he was about to speak, a door opened and a reporter stepped in, camera already raised. The flash lit up the hallway. Keanu, Sandra, what just happened? Is this the truth the world has been waiting for? The moment shattered, the silence broken, the storm just beginning. The photo spread across the world before dawn, the image of Sandra Bullock holding Keanu Reeves in the hallway, his face pale, her arms steady, filled every headline, every screen, every whisper online. Sandra saves Keanu. The stumble that shocked Hollywood. What is he hiding? The internet erupted with theories. Some spoke with kindness, praising Sandra's loyalty and care. Others twisted the story, mocking Keanu's weakness, questioning his health, doubting his strength. Keanu sat in his apartment, the blinds closed, the silence pressing against him. His phone buzzed nonstop, messages pouring in from friends, strangers, reporters. His heart felt heavy. The stumble had been small, just a moment of weakness, but now it had become a story bigger than him. When Sandra arrived at his door later that morning, he almost didn't let her in. But she stood there, her eyes firm, her voice soft. Keanu, please, don't shut me out. He opened the door and she stepped inside, carrying coffee in one hand and determination in her eyes. He sat on the couch, leaning forward, his hands clasped tightly. I didn't want the world to see me like that, he admitted. I've worked so hard to be steady, to be someone people can trust, and now they see weakness. Sandra sat beside him, her voice gentle but strong. They didn't see weakness. They saw truth. They saw a man who carries so much, who finally let the world glimpse his humanity. That doesn't make you smaller, Keanu. It makes you greater. He looked at her, his eyes tired. But what if they turn it against me? What if everything I've built gets torn down because of one stumble? She shook her head. Then let them talk. You've survived worse storms, and you're not alone this time. I won't let them tear you apart. Her words filled the room like light cutting through fog. For years, Keanu had walked through shadows, choosing silence over exposure. But now Sandra's presence reminded him that resilience was not just about standing tall alone. It was also about allowing someone else to stand beside you. But the storm outside was growing stronger. By afternoon, new headlines appeared. One article claimed an insider source had seen Keanu collapse before, suggesting hidden illness. Another accused him of faking the stumble for attention. Lies spread faster than truth, and the world devoured them eagerly. Sandra read them with rising anger. This is cruel, she whispered, slamming the tablet shut. They don't care about truth. They just want to tear you down. Keanu gave a faint, tired smile. That's how it has always been. The world loves to build people up, and then they love to watch them fall. She turned to him, her eyes sharp, her voice fierce. Then we won't give them the fall they want. We'll give them something stronger. We'll give them truth they can't twist. His chest tightened at her words. He had always been the one to protect, the one to offer calm. But now Sandra was his shield, standing firm where he felt weak. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city, another message arrived at his door. A plain envelope, no name. Inside was a photo of him and Sandra from the night before, her arms catching him. Across the picture were words written in bold black ink. Next time, no one will catch you. Sandra's face went pale when she saw it. Keanu, this isn't just gossip anymore. Someone is trying to threaten you. He stared at the photo, his jaw tightening. Silence filled the room. Finally, he looked at her, his voice low but steady. Then I'll face them. But Sandra, I need you to promise me one thing. No matter what happens, don't let them scare you away. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice was strong. I won't. You stumbled and I caught you. I'll keep catching you, Keanu, no matter how many times it happens. In that moment, he realized the truth. It wasn't the stumble that defined him, it was who stood beside him when he fell. But the battle was only beginning, and the next test would come sooner than either of them expected. The envelope with the words "next time." No one will catch you sat on the table like a shadow. Sandra's eyes kept returning to it, her breath uneven. Keanu, this isn't just gossip anymore. This feels dangerous. Keanu leaned back in his chair, his face calm but his eyes dark with thought. I've lived with shadows for a long time, Sandra. But whoever wrote this doesn't understand something important. I don't scare easily. She reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. Maybe you don't, but I do. Not for myself, for you. I don't want you to face this alone. Her words struck him deeper than she knew. He had built his life on solitude, carrying burdens without asking for help. But here she was, refusing to let him face the storm alone. The next day, the story grew even louder. Tabloids released twisted rumors claiming Sandra and Keanu were hiding something bigger. One headline shouted, "The stumble was only the beginning. What are they covering up?" Paparazzi followed them through the streets, their cameras flashing, their voices shouting cruel questions. Keanu, are you sick? Sandra, are you protecting him because he's fragile? The noise was unbearable. Sandra clenched her jaw, anger burning in her chest. They're not even asking questions anymore, Keanu. They're writing the answers they want. He gave a tired smile. That's what they always do. The truth doesn't sell as much as lies. But the pressure grew heavier. Studios began to call, worried about image. People in their circles whispered that maybe silence was better. Maybe denial would quiet the storm. That evening, Sandra visited Keanu again. She found him sitting on the balcony, staring at the city lights. His shoulders were tense, his hands resting still. You're thinking about giving in, she said softly. He turned to her, surprised by her sharpness. I'm thinking about protecting you. If I step back, if I stay silent, maybe they'll leave you alone. Her eyes filled with fire. Don't you dare. Don't you dare think stepping back is protection. Silence is exactly what they want. You didn't stumble because you were weak. You stumbled because you are human. And the world has forgotten that stars are human too. His throat tightened, emotion rising. But what if the truth destroys us? She stepped closer, her voice trembling but strong. Then let it destroy us honestly. I'd rather fall with truth than stand with lies. The words pierced his heart. For so long he had carried fear of losing, fear of pain, fear of showing his scars. But Sandra's strength gave him something he had forgotten. Hope. Before he could answer, a loud knock shook the door. Keanu opened it to find another envelope. This time the message was sharper, crueler. The world doesn't need to see him fall. He's already falling. Step back now or the next stumble will be worse. Sandra's face went pale. They're not stopping. They're watching every move. This isn't just media, Keanu. This is personal. He folded the note slowly, his jaw firm. Then we stop running. We tell the truth ourselves. Not through tabloids, not through whispers. We tell it with our own voices. Sandra blinked, her heart racing. You mean a public statement? He nodded. Yes. If they want to twist our story, we give them the truth they can't twist. No hiding, no pretending. Just us. Her chest tightened with both fear and relief. She knew it would be dangerous, that stepping into the storm would bring more fire, but she also knew he was right. Silence would only let the lies win. She touched his hand, her eyes steady. Then we'll do it together, side by side. Keanu's lips curved in the faintest smile, his eyes softening with emotion he could no longer hide. Together, he repeated. The decision was made. But what neither of them knew was that the moment they chose to speak, the storm would turn into a hurricane, one that would test not just their courage, but their bond itself. The decision to speak truth together was brave, but it came with a price. By the next morning, the media had already caught wind of it. Rumors spread like fire. Some said Keanu was planning to confess a hidden illness. Others said Sandra was covering up a secret romance. Lies traveled faster than air, and the truth had not even been spoken yet. Keanu sat in the living room, his phone buzzing nonstop. Messages from friends, from studios, from strangers. Most were filled with concern, some with threats and a few with kindness. But the noise was too much. Sandra arrived with determination in her eyes. They won't stop until we face them, Keanu, she said firmly. But if we wait too long, they will write our story for us. He sighed, rubbing his temples. I've lived my whole life avoiding the spotlight. I never wanted to explain myself to the world, but maybe now I don't have a choice. She sat beside him, her voice softer. You do have a choice. And that choice is to be real. No performance, no act. Just you. Her words struck deep. Keanu had always lived quietly, never asking for more attention than necessary. But now, the weight of lies pressed on him, and Sandra's presence reminded him that silence would no longer protect him. It would only destroy him slowly. They scheduled a live interview, one they trusted would not twist their words. But as the date grew closer, the threats intensified. One night, a package arrived at Sandra's home. Inside was a torn photograph of her and Keanu from years ago, with words scrawled across it. If you speak, you will regret it. Her hands shook as she showed it to him. This is not just gossip anymore, Keanu. Someone is trying to break us apart before we even stand together. His jaw tightened, his voice steady. Then they are afraid. And if they are afraid, it means our truth matters more than their lies. Sandra's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. I trust you. I always have. The night before the interview, they sat together on the balcony, the city lights glowing below them. The silence was heavy but not empty. Keanu finally spoke, his voice low. Sandra, all my life I've carried pain. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I kept it hidden, no one could use it against me. But when I stumbled, when you caught me, I realized something. Silence is not strength. Strength is letting someone see you at your weakest and not turning away. Her breath trembled. She reached out and held his face gently, just as she had the night of his stumble. And I didn't turn away. I never will. His eyes glistened, the emotions breaking through at last. He covered her hand with his voice cracking. Then I need to say it now before the world asks tomorrow. I love you, Sandra. I have for longer than I can remember. I just didn't know if I was allowed to. Her heart raced, her tears spilling. She whispered back, You were always allowed. You just needed to believe it. The air between them was heavy with truth, with love, with the weight of years unspoken. But as they shared this moment of honesty, the storm outside gathered its fiercest winds. Unknown to them, a new video was already being prepared. One designed to twist everything they said. One that would spread faster than their truth ever could. And when the interview began, they would find themselves not only fighting for love, but for the very right to control their own story. The day of the live interview arrived like a storm. Cameras, microphones, and reporters crowded outside the studio, their voices sharp with questions. Is Keanu hiding the truth? Is Sandra covering for him? The noise was endless, a wall of sound pressing down on them as they walked hand in hand through the entrance. Inside the studio, the lights were bright, the stage polished, but the air heavy with tension. Keanu sat quietly, his hands folded, his expression calm yet burdened. Sandra sat beside him, her heart pounding but her eyes strong. The interviewer leaned forward, his voice smooth but direct. The world has seen the photos. The stumble shocked everyone. Tonight they want answers. What really happened, Keanu? For a moment silence filled the room. Millions were watching. The question cut through him like a blade, but he didn't flinch. His voice was steady, low, and honest. What happened was simple. I stumbled. I am human. I have carried pain, loss, and weight for years. Sometimes even the strongest fall. But that night Sandra caught me, and she reminded me that strength is not about never stumbling. It's about who stands with you when you do. The room went still. Sandra's eyes filled with tears. The interviewer pressed on. But what about the threats? The rumors? Are you hiding something deeper? Keanu took a breath, his voice firm. I am not hiding anymore. For too long I thought silence would protect me, but silence only took away time. The truth is I love Sandra. I always have. And I will not let lies or fear steal that truth from us any longer. The words hung in the air like fire. Sandra's heart raced. She had heard his confession in private, but now he had said it in front of the world with no hesitation. She leaned forward, her voice soft but clear. And I love him. This isn't a performance. This isn't a story they can twist. This is us! The audience erupted in gasps. Cameras zoomed closer. The truth had been spoken, and it was undeniable. But just as the interview seemed to turn into triumph, the storm struck back. The interviewer's earpiece crackled, and suddenly a screen behind them lit up with a leaked video. Edited clips flashed. Keanu looking tired. Sandra holding him after the stumble. Voiceovers twisted into lies, painting him as unstable and weak. Across the screen appeared the words, "He cannot protect himself, how can he protect her?" The crowd in the studio murmured, whispers sharp and cruel. The internet, already alive, exploded with comments. Sandra's face flushed with anger. This is manipulation. This isn't truth, she said fiercely. Keanu raised his hand gently, steadying her. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of his soul. Let them play their lies. Because everyone here can see what's real. Look at us, listen to us. No video can erase the truth we just spoke. The interviewer hesitated, the control slipping. The audience, once doubtful, now leaned forward, listening. Sandra turned to Keanu, her hand reaching for his. You stood in front of the world and told the truth. Nothing can take that away now. He squeezed her hand tightly, his eyes soft with emotion. And I will keep telling it every day until no lie can survive. The cameras captured the moment. The quiet strength in his voice, the tears in her eyes, the unshakable bond between them. But outside the studio, the unseen enemy was not finished. Another move was already being planned. One final strike meant to silence them forever. The night after the live interview, the world was louder than ever. Clips of Keanu's confession filled every corner of the internet. Some voices praised his honesty, calling it the most human moment Hollywood had seen in years. Others clung to the twisted video, refusing to believe. Sandra sat by his side in the quiet of her home, scrolling through endless headlines. Her chest ached. They won't let go, Keanu. It feels like no matter what we say, someone is determined to bring you down. He placed a hand gently over hers. Maybe they will never stop. But we don't live for them. We live for truth. And the truth is stronger than any noise. Before she could reply, another envelope slid under the door. Her stomach dropped as she picked it up. The message inside was harsher than all the others. You stood up once, but soon you will fall for good. The world will see it happen. Sandra's hands shook. Keanu, this isn't just gossip anymore. This is a real threat. His jaw tightened, his voice calm but fierce. Then let them come. I am done running. 2 nights later, the test arrived. They walked together into a charity gala. The same kind of place where everything had started. Cameras flashed wildly, the crowd buzzing with curiosity. Whispers chased them through the hall. And then it happened. As they reached the stage to present an award, a man pushed through the crowd shouting cruel words, rushing forward with wild anger. The room gasped. Security moved too slow. But before the man could reach them, Keanu stepped in front of Sandra, his body firm, his arms wide, his voice strong. "Enough," he said, loud enough to silence the chaos. For a heartbeat, the entire ballroom froze. Cameras captured everything, the fear, the tension, and most of all, the way Keanu shielded Sandra without hesitation. Security finally pulled the man away, but the moment was already burned into the hearts of everyone watching. Sandra clutched his arm, her voice breaking. "You could have been hurt." Keanu looked at her softly, his eyes full of truth. "Better me than you. I told you, Sandra, when I stumble, you catch me. When you're in danger, I will always stand in front of you. That is love. Not silence, not fear. Just this." Her tears spilled as she held his face in her hands once more, her voice trembling but clear. "And I will never let you stand alone again." The room erupted in applause, not for the award, not for the event, but for the raw truth they had just witnessed. The internet exploded again, but this time the lies had no power. The video of Keanu stepping in front of Sandra went viral, shared with words of admiration. The stumble was not weakness. It was the beginning of strength. Keanu Reeves showed the world what love looks like, and Sandra Bullock never let him fall alone. That night, away from the noise, Sandra leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "You stumbled once, Keanu, and I caught you. But tonight you showed me that even when the world tries to push you down, you will always rise. And I will rise with you." He smiled faintly, his hand covering hers. "Then let them watch us rise together." After years of silence, after battles with lies and shadows, Keanu Reeves had spoken his truth. And in the arms of Sandra Bullock, he found not just strength but a home. The stumble that once brought fear became the moment that inspired millions, and the love that grew from it could no longer be hidden.